computer. Happy to be asked to actually, disseminate some information that is maybe new to you, or perhaps a nice little refresher on how important our gut is. And then, of course, this might even be your first introduction to a company that most of us, if you've been invited to this presentation, that we have linked arms with, a company called LifeVantage, and very, very, very proud to speak some wisdom into your life when it comes around gut health, from the perspective of nutrigenomics. So not only do I share from my personal background, but obviously I'm going to weave into and lead up to some information that has really changed my life, has changed so many others' lives. And this, when I start to bring on somebody new that I love to work with, this is the first questions that I start to ask them. How's their diet? How's their bowel movements? Those are some of the things. How's your overall gut health, compared to them? Because guess what? Mine, over many, many years, I didn't really realize it and I didn't really pay attention to it. But I have been dealing with some sort of gut issue, IBS, inability to actually digest a lot of different foods. I'm definitely allergic to certain foods. And that's not only things because of what my body's doing to help to metabolize those foods, but over time, we don't really realize that we start to become actually more and more sensitive. And that's what was my, problem, because of the environmental toxins that are actually affecting the health of our gut microbiome. So it's really, really important to not only ask yourselves these questions now, but also in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can get started on seeing some slides that'll hopefully help you through the process of this. So one moment. Give me one moment. Where did it go? There we go. Here it is. All right. Okay. So we're talking about gut health here, and just to, I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. Sorry, guys. Give me 2 seconds to get this all figured out. But we're talking about our gut health, and well, we're going to have to move that over and just put a present. So, and honestly, this has been such a huge topic, like I said. And when I really started to not only look into it and appreciate it, and this was years ago when I actually started doing some elimination processes for myself to figure out why I was having IBS, why I was in so much pain after certain foods, why I was actually falling asleep after other foods. And more so, it was, especially as a woman, it was that emotional imbalance that I kept, finding. And I truly wanted to get to, pun intended, the bottom of it. So this is where I really started looking into so many different health alternative books and ways of thinking in order to help to support what I knew was the root cause was my gut health. So we, oh, let's see here. We are with a company called LifeVantage. Like I said, we are at the forefront of nutrigenomics. I'm so proud to announce this every single time that I get a chance to speak into people about their health. And today we are talking about how LifeVantage truly has the same passion as I do, the same thought process of really taking care of the gut. And so we're going to show you how I've come to learn, as well as so many others have come to learn about really supporting our gut health in certain ways. We're going to introduce some things to you, some products to you, we woven throughout it, but you're going to be able to take away a lot of information, even if you're on a specific regime right now. But definitely pay attention, because there's some differences, key differences that I found out along the way that really support not only my indigenous way of thinking, but also the functional medicine way of thinking. So okay, you guys, we obviously, this is what we want to do. This is what we were born to do, right? We eat, Mama fed us, right? We poop. That's these are the good telltale signs that a newborn child is healthy. And we sleep. Okay. And one affects the other. There's no, we want to make sure that all systems are really supporting our overall health. Okay. And so I invite you to ask this question and check in with yourself, because we don't ask this enough. We oftentimes take for granted what we just assume is our norm or our new norm, considering the stresses that we go through. But are you truly experiencing optimal health? Okay. And the next question after that is, when you rate yourself, like say maybe from a 1 to 10 with this question, are you truly experiencing optimal health? And you get that gauge and that number. Maybe you're a 5, maybe you're an 8, maybe you're a 10. That's excellent. But if you are less than where you want to be in that 10 mode, I ask you to also judge yourself. Where would you like to see your health? Living in an optimal state, in an optimal being, and go for the gamut. I want to be running around, doing this, or I want to be feeling like that. I want to, doing this. Really dream big, because we definitely have the potential of actually exercising that every single day by the choices that we make. Okay. So here's a little foundation about gut. Gut health is definitely foundation to our overall sleep. We definitely want to make sure that these are some of the things that we're paying attention to. Our gut health, our sleep, because sleep definitely helps us to repair better. Our nutrition, what we're putting into our bodies. And sometimes that nutrition comes from our mindset. And it also comes from making sure that we're not combating our nutrition with some of the extra toxins that we are exposed to every day, or possibly putting on ourselves, through our hair care, through our skincare. And then certainly exercise. Exercise is really going to help us to detox and move all of that, food, bacteria, emotions, all of these things in and out of our bodies. So this to me just kind of helps to build the foundation of how we can actually maximize that optimal health. Okay, so here's a nice little gut check. Did you know, I want to point this out, did you know that 74% of Americans have chronic health gut issues? I thought it was closer to 86 that percent are actually walking around with a leaky gut syndrome. But depending whether or not, over 75% of our nation basically is walking around with some sort of gut issue. So how does these show up? All of these: mood swings, migraines, autoimmune, food intolerances, IBS, like I talked about, uh, Crohn's disease, sleep disturbances, brain fog, upset stomach, bloating, and heartburn. Oftentimes, we just chalk that up as like, oh, I ate something wrong, or this is my norm, and we just go for an over the counter. That could actually be hurting us. Another thing, that real big telltale indicator, is our skin. Is it showing up in your skin anywhere on? So that's where we start to look at eczema. We start to actually look at anything that might be showing up on our face as far as acne goes. Typically, my first question as a health practitioner is, what's going on in your gut? Okay, so here's a nice little gut check. One other thing that's definitely on the rise for not only young people, but definitely all ranges of persons, including, and we may not be, paying attention to it, is maybe even our babies and our toddlers. Oftentimes they will show stress, and their gut health will immediately reflect that stress. So anxiety, depression is on the rise because of our global pandemic, because of the financial situations that we're in. That's honestly that's part of my story, and why I actually looked into LifeVantage as a vehicle to help to support my family along with supporting my health. So one thing, though, that is, antidepressants is really rampant. And not only that, sleep medication is also a form of, some of them can be a form of antidepressants, and actually really wreaking havoc on that nice villi, that's in our gut microbiome and in the diversity of what should be present in our gut microbiome. So what do we do now? What's the answers? Well, the last thing before we do that, I want you to check out, as the last part of it, is your poop survey. Your poop does not lie. So one thing that you could do and take away from this presentation is actually take a look at it. Take a look at it before you flush, right? And so we want to do somewhere in the middle here where it looks nice and healthy. This one in the middle definitely looks cool, calm, and collected. He's got his cool shades on, but more than anything, he's hydrated, right? He's hydrated, and that also means that that our poop is actually coming out of our system on a regular, happy, not overly lumpy or dehydrated, and not the extreme where we have too much acid going on in our bodies that we're actually closer to diarrhea and a loose stool. Okay, so first and foremost, make sure to do that poop observation, because that really, outside of the tongue, the eyes, is really where we want to show up and look and report back to our doctors if we're experiencing something difficult. If Ella could go ahead and mute yourself, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, so this, you guys, is part of my journey as well. I really started, so when I went to go in and listen to something kind of like this, but it was just an overall, general information session about LifeVantage, about our beautiful company, that we're publicly traded, all of this, awesome stuff, that we have peer-reviewed studies on our products. What I was truly suffering with, and the reason why I actually went to, is I had mom brain, I had mom depression, I was postpartum, I was dealing with not putting in a lot of great nutrients in my body, because I believed at that time, like, all of my hard-earned money, and it was very little because I took a hiatus to actually care for my son when he was young, and my financial situation was just, I call it, I was mentally bankrupt, financially bankrupt, emotionally bankrupt, and I knew I needed to do something. And so when I went in to listen, I thought, okay, well, first things first, I got to get some omegas in me to help with my brain. And this is what it was. It was my brain that I really wanted to get a hold of, because when we can actually feel better, start to think better, we start to actually make healthier decisions, right? So when we start to look at the gut brain axis and how it really communicates back up to our brain, feeds our brain, and the influence that we have during all these different transmitters and whatnot, we want to make sure that we're supporting our guts just as equally through the foods and diet, nutrition, and what we feed ourselves, the people that we hang around with. And then, of course, the support system for specifically designed for our gut, which we'll talk about, which is probiotics, prebiotics, and now what we know is a kind of a postbiotic, if you will. That's truly going to help us to get out of that cyclical, just kind of projection of really looking for a band-aid versus healing the core of us. So probiotics, not Prozac, as Psychology Today says, and I truly, truly believe in it. But here's the catcher. I don't know if you've been one of those that have been looking into it, and actually our probiotics industry can be quite a ripoff. So let's talk about that in a minute. So here's we're going to show. On top of that gut-brain axis, 70% of our immune system actually exists in our gut. So considering that we've been dealing with a worldwide pandemic and epidemic, overall in our health, and it doesn't seem like it's quite going away. However, we want to make sure that we're staying on top of being healthy. This is truly how we start to come back there. So when we start to go to studies such as PubMed.gov, where you can also find our studies on our activators, which is another huge part of our daily regimen and our daily health regimen when we're looking at the lens through the lens of nutrigenomics. We realize that one of the articles that says here, improving our gut microbiota profile by personalized nutrition and supplementation or activation, known to improve immunity, can be one of the prophylactic ways of which the impact of the disease can be minimized. And that was speaking to COVID. So here we are. This is where our doctors go, pubmed.gov to, it's the National Institute of Libraries Health. And this is where we truly go to find, they go to really look at the latest research on what's going on to help individual clients as well as a mass amount of people. So why do we experience, some of the gut ailments, and why are we experiencing these? Did you know that a vaginal birth is actually setting up our first initial intake of our mother's probiotics through that whole process, and through the intake of the nose and the mouth of that process of the birthing process of the mucus that goes in, that actually sets up the health of our whole immunity and really can start to build upon that. And then when we are able to breastfeed and exchange, and that whole process is amazing, we're also able to feed in on that gut microbiome and build that to healthy states. So those are really some key core contributing factors. So you might want to ask your mom, hey, how was my birth? How was did I get to breastfeed? If you don't know your birth story, it's really an eye opener for a lot of people when I actually communicate to them. Of course, genetics plays a part, and that's why nutrigenomics is so important to look into. We have more information on that on every Wednesday. Diet, nutrition, obviously, medication and antibiotics. How many of you have experienced, that's what you did. You went into, the dentist, and automatically you got a round of, antibiotics, or you went into the doctor and you got a round of antibiotics. Well, antibiotics can certainly be helpful, with a certain mindset, but it kills out all of the bacteria. So that's good, bad, and anywhere in between. What we don't encourage, and what the allopathic world doesn't encourage, is actually replacing some of that when we deplete our body of that. And so those are sometimes the contributing factors that lead up to the problems that we see in later in life. And of certainly lifestyle, you guys, stress, the balance between work, travel, environmental exposure, like we talked about earlier. So here's another good question. Okay, so what if improving your gut health could radically change your health and your well-being? From your mental and emotional states of being, to your physical, to the way that you present yourself and show up, the way that you feel within your skin and your body. Would you be willing to take those steps in that direction? All right, so let's start to head in that direction. So your microbiome is really just made up of beautiful trillions and trillions of gorgeous little microorganisms that help to, they're just alive and colorful and bountiful, and they all feed upon this and that. And I mean, there's so many different things that scientifically are going on that we're not going to get into. But the more diverse our microbiome is, and the more different foods that we eat, and even the dirt that we ate as children, and engulf in our air and our surroundings and all of that, as we are truly made up of our environment, this all helps to either support a healthy microbiome or deplete it. Okay, so that's basically all going in on that gut. And so it affects it starts actually in your nerves, your saliva, your mouth, tongue, tonsils, all of these, your stool, vagina, your skin. All of these actually are a part of the microbiome system. So how why should you care? So the microbiome affects many different things, like we talked about. Cardiovascular is one that a lot of people don't really pay attention to. They just think that heart trouble is heart trouble, and gut trouble is gut trouble. Our obviously our immunes, it makes nutrients. Oral health is huge when we're talking about our gut microbiome. Because that's the start of the process of our mastication. And then just overall it's truly a system that pretty much rules us, so if you will. And this is where epigenetics comes in. Who wants choices? And that's all we're doing, you guys. That's all we're doing today, is empowering you with making healthier choices. And guess what? You don't know if something is a choice if you don't look to educate yourself and to really tune in to some of the things that are at the forefront of where our health is, versus just assuming that this, that, or the other is the same information of where health is, still affecting us now. So it's as personal as our fingerprint, our own microbiome, and how we actually, work towards it. So we actually, the more you know and understand your microbiome, and do some of the journaling that is required sometimes to get to the bottom root of maybe an illness or disease, then we can truly help to identify how we can work and to strengthen that gut microbiome. So 97% of our genome is actually impacted by the choices that we make. And we want to make sure that that includes the lifestyle that we live, the toxins that we're exposed to, water, EMFs, medications, stressors, etc. So, and then getting to the bottom of it, like Susan says, in her slides, is truly that majority of our gut microbiome is actually located in the lower part of our digestional tract. And that's where, when I explain in a second, we're going to actually go into why our probiotics are so unique, because it actually gets down into the core of where our microbiome is, and released in that area in such a way that it truly, truly is helping, versus being lost in the digestional tract, even in the stomach and in the acids of our metabolism, breaking it down. So you guys, this is how I explain it all the time. Whether it's your brain that you're cultivating, or your gut that you're cultivating, I always reference a garden, because it's so, one of these days I'm going to make a book, You're Only as Healthy as Your Garden Is. And it's truly a beautiful picture that you can paint in your head, right? So say if you have weeds, say if, your gut's not feeling good, your brain's not feeling good with the thoughts that you're putting in there, say if you need to actually work to till the land. Sometimes that takes a while to actually make sure that the soil is ready for, guess what? New soil, new health, new nutrients to actually feed before you start to feed and throw down the seeds. And that's where, when we're talking about the gut health, we're looking at probiotics, okay? And probiotics are the seeds. They're all this lush garden that's going to sprout up in all these beautiful different colors, as you see here, and feed into the health of our overall well-being. Prebiotics is kind of like your compost, or it's kind of like the good health, the mixture of the good soil and the compost all together, that's putting it in. And you want to make sure that that's laying down a foundation. So a lot of times when I work with my clients, I am actually telling them that we oftentimes are running around with a leaky gut syndrome, which means you have minute little, pukas, or little holes, if you will, that are not allowing if hopefully you're actually ingesting good, yummy stuff and nutrients. But if our gut's not set up, and it's, not even processing the yummy nutrition that we are taking in, then guess what? It's not going out to the systems that we need it to support, cardiovascular, our brain, everything else. So prebiotics actually is part of what we can do to actually help to lay down that foundation, help to heal the gut lining, so that when we do put our probiotics in on that soil, guess what? The prebiotics are actually not for us, they're feeding the probiotics. So they're giving life and nutrient to everything that we want to grow healthy. And then when we talk about postbiotics, ooh, this is super interesting, and this is new for us as a company at LifeVantage, is we've come up with a way to actually even support that whole system, and everything, like every other life cycle, just recycles. And therefore we want a postbiotic to actually become the compost that actually gets recycled to go back in, and that feeds, you know, all of this. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. So here we are. I personally take this. This is called our LifeVantage Vitality Stack. So it has a little bit more. It has my activators, which is a different call. It has my probiotics here, and it has my omegas. So I personally, because our probiotics are actually time released, and anywhere between 7 to 10 hours later, it actually releases down into that large intestines, like I was talking about. I take these at night. And that way, when when I'm sleeping and it starts to, you know, release over time, then it really starts to work. And what I do take is in the morning time in my water, just a nice little water bottle, you know, hydro flask, is a scoop of our prebiotics. And that is definitely something that is going to help. That's fibrous. It's going to help with, again, feeding that. So you can throw in the chat. Unfortunately, I can't see the chat, but if any of you know how we do this to support our body naturally through our foods, you know, we can't sit around and eat Cheetos and actually, you know, drink beer and just assume that, you know, there's going to be some magic pill behind us that's going to help to take care of all of that. But rather, we want to make sure that we're ingesting. So if you guys would like to share, you know, some of those, I'll look at them later. But here's some things that maybe you didn't think of. Pickles, you know, anything fermented is fun. Pickles, kefir, you know, these are some things that we might want to think about even for the health, the gut health of our children. You know, it's definitely we want to make sure that if it is yogurt, that is the most common one that comes up, is that our yogurts are not loaded with tons of sugar. You know, and I preferably like to recommend something that is non-dairy, because a lot of us actually don't do very well with dairy. However, if you're one of those persons that do a nice, you know, cultured Greek yogurt, you know, it has some really yummy probiotics. So kimchi, sauerkraut, things that are pickled, you can think of that really help to support in our microbiome naturally as we're ingesting all of those yummy foods. And prebiotics, does anybody know or can throw out any natural ways that we can ingest prebiotics? We definitely want to be high in fiber. What else was that? It'll come to me in a moment. But as far as our prebiotics, we get a really beautiful dose of this in that one little scoop. And then what I didn't mention is our postbiotics, you guys. So that is really the compost that's going to help to support. This is our daily wellness. And this actually has a proprietary blend of vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc, along with yeast extract. And so that is really beautiful to help to support. And this is not just on a whim, like, oh yeah, these are well researched, you know, trials and errors of really combining just the right amount. And it's not too much. And so people are like, this isn't a lot of vitamin C, this isn't a lot of zinc. It's just what our body needs to actually, you know, tip that scale and to keep things in balance. And that's due to the scientific research of nutrigenomics. That's why I get so excited. Okay, so you know, this is Susan's story, and basically, you know, she came back with parasites from India. It really, as she is diving into a lot of things, she's really correlating it to a lot of emotional stress that happen along, you know, the road and the pathway. Those obviously were certain triggers, and it's just quite interesting because I'm the same. I found that a lot of my triggers are obviously due to emotional components, and then the way that my body reacts to that then can affect the way that I'm actually processing and metabolizing things and not taking to advantage. So Here it is. We're LifeVantage. Here's our probiotics. You can see here that this is the 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 one of the beautiful things in the lineup of actually our the CFU. Sorry, I'm just at a loss right here. And what was interesting is that Susan had mentioned she was taking like 80, 90 billion CFUs, thinking, gosh, the more the merrier. But again, research has shown that we don't need quite as much. We need specific, very healthy ones. And we actually paired with a company called Wellmune, and they that has been their company. And so they have truly figured out the ones that are very good for our system, that we truly need to help to grow that healthy microbiome with a healthy diet. The interesting thing is that they also figured out is that most probiotics are actually, they're pretty much no good by the time you even get them home to you, let alone ingest them. And that's because of the way they're encapsulated. So Wellmune takes an approach with LifeVantage, is the only one that I know of that actually Smart Start coats it, but then so that it's actually time released into the down into the lower gut where we want it to, but it's actually freeze dried so that the oxygen, which we talk about in our anti-aging activator calls, the oxygen actually doesn't get to that to make it impotent, basically. And so we're really getting those live probiotics and cells, that we need. So that's exciting. The probiotics, like we talked about, is time released, regular. I've got a little mosquito going on here. So these are some of the things that I just talked about. They're cute little pills, really easy to swallow. Even though I have my son chew on them, he definitely loves these, and we're both extremely regular. So it's noted to be 15 times more effective than most other probiotics out there. In fact, we're getting 60 to 70% in down where it needs to go versus the 4 to 5% in a typical over-the-counter probiotic. So something to give note on. You don't want to be throwing away your money. Prebiotics, here's the ingredients and the information on that. We talked enough about that being basically the food for our probiotics. And then our daily wellness is our postbiotics. And this is just exciting. Again, elderberry, whole yeast ferment, zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D, and all of this together. Woo! You should hear some of the fun stories on this and how people are really able to increase their immune systems and feel better quicker if anything should be coming at their immune system, coupled with just really adding into our overall gut health. It's really a beautiful trio that we've got going on here. So don't feed your weeds. If you have a takeaway from this, definitely we want to breathe. Okay, that changes our biochemical response to even how we're metabolizing. We want to meditate every single day, activate. We want to rest and digest, rest, give our bodies a period of time. That's why intermittent fasting was so important. And it's actually so many different beautiful benefits. So rest our systems, get moving, exercise helps to detoxify, all of that, get things out of our body. Eating whole foods and less processed foods, obviously hydrate. And I certainly recommend not only the prebiotics in there, but also our Axio. Get more sleep. We're going to heal and repair better when we're sleeping better. It's just overall like one of my gut health and sleep is my two key things that I always bring out. And then, of course, you're going to want to be mindful. So no sugars. If you can, stay away from gluten-free. And believe it or not, I'm going to still recommend that even if you find that you're not intolerant to dairy, most times it's beneficial to our bodies to not ingest dairy, dairy products, if and when possible. So here it is, you guys, our gut health trio. So I really appreciate it. This has truly changed my life, so many people's lives. and it's really been a game changer. And it's really the core foundation of how I not only treat my health, but I also share from my Hawaiian health perspective to treat the health of others. So invest in your garden and surely take care and treat that so that your health is abundant like this garden is for days and days and days to come. So that is us. I'm going to stop my share. If anybody has any questions, I would love to answer them for you. Um, just a beautiful little invitation that we do this type of call every Wednesday at 12 noon Hawaii time, and then 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and I believe it's still 6 p.m. Eastern at this time of year. So we have gorgeous, gorgeous informational platforms of how nutrigenomics is truly not only taking us into the new health regime, and helping us to live longer, healthier. But if you're truly interested in sharing this and really jumping on board with having a side hustle or changing up your profession because you've been left with a huge transition in your life, this is something that you might want to take a look at, because truly, if you can better your health and just invite people to come and listen into talks like this, then you can possibly make a living off of it. So I have loved changing that and adding it to my career path. So I love you all. I hope you had a beautiful time. Aloha Pali Jean. And thank you for listening. And if anybody has, let me just check the questions real quick, or yay, pubmed.gov. Yes. If you want to do any research, or if you need anybody to speak with you privately about something that might be going on within your gut microbiome, or any health issue, let's see if we can, find a match. Okay. Aloha, everyone. Ahui ho.